You're a slave to other people. That they're going to think this way about me, so I should do this. You're a slave to other people. That they're going to think this way about me, so I should do this. Or they're not going to say this about me, so I won't do this. That's slavery. And there are people who worship that. There are people who worship society's standards. So for example, fashion. You know, there's people who worship fashion. What does that mean? Well, they're not praying to fashion. But when fashion comes and says, wear this, سمعنا وأطعنا. You know what that means? We hear and we obey. Sound familiar? We hear and we obey. Fashion says, wear this, we hear and we obey. Then a year later, fashion changes his mind and says, wear this. We hear and we obey. Then another few months later, again, now it's this. We hear and we obey. Now the problem isn't whether or not you're fashionable. The problem is that we don't have a standard outside of that. So even if fashion comes and tells you, wear this, and this is in contradiction to what Allah and His messengers say to wear, but we hear and we obey. Does that make sense? I always think it's very interesting to observe the changes that we've seen, for example, in fashion. And one of the most stark, shocking changes that I've observed is the changes in men's fashion. It's actually quite shocking. I'll tell you what I'm talking about. So, about 10 years ago, if you told a man to put on a pair of tights, he would say, over my dead body, I'm not going to wear tights. Now, they're all wearing skinny jeans and having no problem with it. And I swear, if you had told any man to put that on 10 years ago, he would have been like, are you kidding me? I'm not Robin Hood. Like, I'm not going to put on tights. But somehow fashion has said so. Fashion has said so. And so we've gotten to a point where we hear and we obey. That is something that's amazing. This is a type of worship because we are commanded and we obey without any concept of whether or not that's a standard that we live to. We have to have a separate standard. And again, this is how our hearts can become owned. There are people who worship other people. They worship others. And when I say that, not just what other people think, but they take another person and they put that person so high that they revolve their existence around that human being. Can I give you one of the most common examples of this? Our children. Our children. Sounding crazy, right? We do this and we don't realize. And in fact, we're encouraged to do this as mothers. The moment you have a child, you know, it starts out, you get married, and you're encouraged to revolve your life around your husband. But then you have a child, and now, what husband? Now, your life is now about your child, right? It looks like this. This is what I call doing tawaf around your child. What it looks like is everything revolves around your child. And it's usually your son. Right? Let's be honest. It's your male child. Revolve around your child. Now, this is something, it's one of these hidden types of, in a sense, worship that we're encouraged as women. We're told that once you have a child, you don't have your own identity anymore. You don't have your own life anymore. You don't have your own development, your own passion, your own striving anymore. Your life is now about your child. And then you're taught that that's how you can be a good mother, is to give up everything for your child. That's not healthy. It's not healthy. And I'll tell you, it is not healthy from a psychological perspective, but most importantly, it is not healthy from an Islamic perspective. And that might sound strange, but I thought Islam says your life revolves around Allah, not your child. And your child will become a fitna for you, will become a test for you if you put your child at the center where Allah should be. And I've seen it so much, because one of the biggest tests for a mother is her child. Why? Because anything you love is a test for you. When Ibrahim alayhi salam was tested, what was he tested in? He was tested in his child, because he loved his child. That is what we're going to be tested in. And any time you put your child where Allah should be, not only are you hurting yourself, you're actually hurting your child. Can I tell you what we're raising? I mean, can we just be honest? Can I tell you what we're raising? We're raising narcissists. We're raising narcissists. What does that mean? People who believe that the world revolves around them. Why? Because their mom revolved around them. Right? Their mom, she lived and died for them. Her entire world, her entire life was just to do tawaf around them. You know, they grow up thinking that they're actually the center. That's not healthy. And then what happens, of course, is they get married and now they expect, what do they expect? They expect that now their spouse is going to continue the tawaf. Right? This is not healthy. The world doesn't revolve around anyone or anything but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when you lose that balance, it causes a lot of pain. It will cause you a lot of pain, and it will cause your family a lot of pain. If you want to understand why we have a problem with the so-called mother-in-law, do you know why that happens? Why do we have an issue? Why is there an issue between the wife and the mother-in-law? You know there shouldn't be an issue? These are two completely different roles. These are two completely different people. They should not be in competition. The fact that there is an issue is a result of an unhealthy attachment from the beginning. Because think about it. If you gave up your entire life, right? You gave up your everything, your existence for this person, this child, their whole life, 30 years. And then all of a sudden, They're going to go get married and you're just going to give that up? Do you guys understand what I'm saying? And that's why you can't let it go. That's why it becomes a conflict. Because there was an unhealthy type of attachment from the beginning. If we can have a balance and understand that our life does not revolve around anyone or anything but Allah, then our relationships will be more healthy. We will be able to live more healthy lives. But we have to come back to that balance. And when we lose that, that's why all these other problems come. How do we do that practically? So this is a concept. How do we do that practically? Going back to the idea that you're meant to give up everything for the sake of another person. This is also an imbalance that a lot of us have been sort of taught. There's this idea that you're supposed to sacrifice yourself for the sake of everyone else. You know when you get on an airplane, how many people have been on an airplane? Like one person? Okay. So when you get on an airplane, the safety video says, in case of an emergency, put on your own oxygen mask first before helping or assisting others. You with me? All right. Now, the first time I heard that, I thought that was pretty selfish. As did you, right? What do you mean? I'm just going to worry about myself while my child doesn't have an oxygen mask or my spouse. No way. But then you know what? You're not going to be able to help anyone if you're dead. Right? If you yourself are not breathing, if you yourself don't have oxygen, how are you going to assist someone else? Right? This is the problem. Is that when we are putting on oxygen masks on everyone else, but we ourselves don't have any oxygen. We ourselves don't have an oxygen mask, but we're making sure everyone else does. What's going to happen? You are going to run out of oxygen, and you will burn out. You won't be able to help anyone else. It is not selfish to take care of yourself. It is not selfish to have compassion for yourself. That is the way that you're going to be a better mother, father, spouse, and slave to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have to put in effort in taking care of your own heart and taking care of yourself. And when you do that, then you will be able to be a more balanced mother or father or friend or spouse, and you will be able to be a better mother or father or spouse or friend. And so what it really is, and if you look at it across the board, Islam is a deen of balance. It's a deen of the middle path. We don't neglect ourselves and we don't neglect others. We have to take care of ourselves in order to be able to give to others. Now, how can we do that? So I've talked about love and not having competitors with Allah. I've talked about how the heart can be resilient enough to handle the storms of our lives. I've talked about finding a shelter in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so we don't get destroyed by our forest fires. But how do I do that on a day-to-day basis? How do I live that? The answer actually is in the prescription that's given to us by Allah and His Messenger. Now, the prescription that I share, it has 3 parts. The first part is the oxygen of the heart, and that is our salah. Our salah, our 5 daily prayers. If a person doesn't pray, it's like a person who doesn't breathe. It's a person who is deprived of spiritual oxygen. If a person isn't remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's like a person who doesn't have oxygen. Has anyone out there ever said, you know what, today I'm busy, so I'll breathe tomorrow? Or you know what, this week I'm studying for exams, or you know, my child has a big program, I'm helping them study for their exams, so let me just pray next week. Let me just breathe next week. See, we never put off breathing, because we know that if we did, we would die. And it's exactly the same thing with salah. It's exactly the same thing. If a doctor gave you a prescription and said, you know, you're very sick, and here is some medicine that will keep you alive. And the doctor said, this medicine has to be taken 5 times a day and has to be taken on time. And you knew that this medicine was keeping you alive. Would anyone say, you know what, I'm busy today, so I'm going to miss 5 doses, or I'll miss 3 doses, or I'll take all 5 before I sleep? Because I have a busy day. I have to shop, I have to, you know, I have meetings, I have appointments. So you know what, that's okay, I'll miss a few doses, or I'll just take them all before I sleep. Nobody would do that. Why? Because it's keeping you alive. Allah knows what He's doing when He gives us a prescription.